Class 12th, Subject Chemistry, Chapter number 2, Solutions, Part 3. So in the previous class, we had learned about solutions, the types of solutions. We had also learned how solute and solvent are the two important components of a solution. We had also learned the 7 important methods to calculate the concentration of a solution. So today we would be learning about solubility, which is topic 2.3 of the NCERT textbook. So solubility is a physical property of a solution. It is defined as the measure of maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved in a quantified amount of solvent. So it is nothing but is the maximum amount of solute that can be dissolved into a specific amount of solvent at a particular temperature is called as solubility. So consider this example here where you're adding 10 grams of glucose into 90 grams of water. So maybe 90 grams of water can dissolve 20 grams of glucose, but we are adding only 10 grams of glucose here. So the maximum amount of solute that you are able to dissolve in 90 grams of water at a particular temperature is called its solubility. Since we are adding only 10 grams, maybe 20 grams is the maximum amount of solute that we are able to dissolve in 90 grams of water at room temperature. Okay, so solubility is where you are able to dissolve maximum amount of solute in a particular or specified amount of solvent at a particular temperature, can be room temperature. So here you are dissolving maximum amount of glucose into 90 grams of water at room temperature. So this is its solubility. Now we have understood what is solubility. Now let us look into some of the factors that affect solubility. So the first factor that affects solubility is nature of solute and solvent and the interaction between them. So stronger the attractions between solute and solvent, stronger will be the or greater will be the solubility. That is, if force of attraction between the solute and solvent molecules are strong enough, then solubility of the solution will be also increasing. But if the force of attraction or the attractions between the solute and solvent molecules are weaker, then solubility of the solution will be decreasing. So solubility of the solution depends upon the force of attraction between solute and solvent molecules. So this is the first factor of solubility, where it is dependent, solubility is dependent on nature of solute and solvent. So let us move on to the second factor of solubility, that is molecular size of solute. This property we have already learnt in our junior classes, that is we have learned powdered substances are much more easier to be dissolved in solvent comparatively to solid substances, right, or crystals. So substances or solutes which have larger molecules, they find it difficult to be dissolved comparing or comparatively to smaller molecules which are much more easier to dissolve. So larger molecules are more difficult to dissolve in solvents, whereas smaller molecules dissolve easily and are soluble also in solvents. Okay, so larger molecules are difficult to be dissolved in solvents, whereas smaller molecules can be easily dissolved in solvents. So solubility also depends upon the size of the solute, which is the second factor. Now let us look into the third factor of solubility, that is polarity. Here we would be learning about two types of solvents, that is polar solvents and non-polar solvents. So polar solvents are those which are having bonds with different electronegativities. Okay, so solvents which have bonds with different electronegativities are called as polar solvents. So polar solvents examples are water, ethanol and formaldehyde. So polar solvents only dissolves polar solutes. Okay, whereas non-polar solvents are those having bonds with similar electronegativities. Okay, so bonds with similar electronegativities are non-polar solvents. Examples are pyridine, toluene and hexane. Okay, so non-polar solvents only dissolves non-polar solutes. So from this we are understanding that polar solvents only dissolve polar solutes, non-polar solvents only dissolves non-polar solutes. Okay, so we can conclude with this statement that like dissolves like. Okay, so polar solvent is dissolving polar solute, so non-polar solvents are dissolving non-polar solutes. That is why we can say that like dissolves like. So this is the third property or the third factor of solubility. Now let us move on to the fourth factor of solubility, that is temperature. That is, with increase in temperature, solubility also increases. We have seen that when we are increasing the temperature of the solution, the substance or the solute will get easily dissolved into the solvent, right? If you are adding some amount of salt into water and you have added large amount of salt, so it will take much time for the salt to get dissolved in water. But if you increase the temperature, what will happen? This salt will fastly or very rapidly get dissolved in water. That is why when you're rising or increasing temperature, solubility is also increasing, and with decrease in temperature, solubility will also decrease. The last factor of solubility is pressure. That is, with rise in pressure, solubility also increases, and with decrease in pressure, solubility will also decrease. So both temperature and pressure are dependent on solubility. That is, with increase in temperature and pressure, solubility increases, but with decrease in temperature and pressure, solubility decreases. So we have learnt what is solubility and what are the factors that affect solubility. Now we have to understand what happens when you're dissolving a solid into liquid. That is, solubility of a solid in liquid. So if you take a solution of sugar or salt dissolved, it is a common example of solubility of solid in liquid. We know that salt dissolved in water or sugar dissolved in water is nothing but two solids dissolved in liquids, right? But that does not prove that all the solids can be dissolved in water, right? So it is not necessary that all the solids can dissolve in liquids. So in order to understand this concept, we will have to understand two other important concepts, that is dissolution and crystallization. So dissolution is the phenomenon where you are increasing the concentration of the solution by dissolving solid solute to the solvent. This process or method is known as dissolution. So in the first beaker, you can see you have added tiny crystals of sugar. Okay, you have added sugar cubes in the still water. So the sugar remains in the solution like this until you start stirring the solution. So once you have started stirring the solution, the sugar cubes will be evenly distributed in the entire solution, right? They will be uniformly distributed. They will be uniformly dissolving into the solution. Lastly, we will get a sugary solution. So what is the difference between the first beaker and the last beaker? In the first beaker, the concentration of the solution is less. That is, it's a dilute solution. But by the last beaker, you can see the concentration of the solution has increased. That is, this is a concentrated solution, right? The amount of sugar present in the first beaker and the last beaker is different. First beaker has only some amount of sugar dissolved in it, but the last beaker has large amount of sugar cubes dissolved in it. That is, concentration of the solution has increased. How? By dissolving solid solute, that is by dissolving sugar into solvent, that is water. So the phenomenon where you are increasing the concentration of the solution by dissolving solid solute into solvent is known as dissolution. Okay, now we have understood what is dissolution. Let's understand the second concept, that is crystallization. So crystallization is the phenomenon where solute particles in the solution are separating or separate out, or the process where there is separation of solute particles from the solution is known as crystallization. Okay, so this is a phenomenon where there is collision of solute particles, and when the solute particles are separated from the solution, that method or process is known as crystallization. We have already done this method, crystallization process, in class 10th, right? Where you are taking a china dish and you are boiling the solution, that is, you are boiling copper sulfate solution. After boiling and cooling the copper sulfate solution, you will obtain copper sulfate crystals, right, in the china dish. So what is happening here? The solute particles that has been dissolved in the solution is separating out. The solute particles has separated from the solution and they have formed crystals. So this process is known as crystallization. Okay, so we have understood from the process of dissolution where solute particles are dissolving into the solution, or they are going into the solution, and crystallization is the process where solute particles are getting separated out from the solution. Now here we need to understand an important point. What is equilibrium? What is the state or phase of equilibrium? So a phase where number of solute particles that is going into the solution is equal to the number of solute particles separating out of the solution. That is, the number of solute particles going into the solution is nothing but number of solute particles dissolving in the solution. That is, dissolution process is equal to the number of solute particles separating from the solution. So number of solute particles separating from the solution is crystallization process. That phase is known as equilibrium. So the solute particles which are going into the solution, it is equal to the solute particles separating out of the solution. It is known as equilibrium. Okay, so at equilibrium the rate of dissolution is equal to the rate of crystallization. Okay, so where the number of solute particles dissolving in the solution and number of solute particles separating out of the solution are equal at the phase of equilibrium. So here at the phase of equilibrium, the concentration of the solute remains constant. So at this state, the solute or the concentration of the solute remains constant at given conditions. At given temperature and pressure, the concentration of the solute remains constant at equilibrium. Okay, so at equilibrium, rate of dissolution is equal to rate of crystallization. Now we have understood what happens at equilibrium, at dynamic equilibrium. Okay, now we need to understand what is a saturated solution and what is an unsaturated solution. So a solution in which more solute can be dissolved into the solvent at same temperature and pressure is known as saturated solution. That is, when you are not able to dissolve more solute into the solvent at same temperature and pressure, it is called saturated solution. That is, you have already dissolved enough amount of solute and you are not able to dissolve more amount of solute into the solvent that at the same temperature and pressure. It is known as saturated solution. Whereas unsaturated solution is where you are able to dissolve more solute into a solvent at the same temperature and pressure. Okay, so in saturated solution is where you are not able to dissolve more solute into the solvent at same temperature and pressure, while unsaturated solution is where you are able to dissolve more solute into the solvent at same temperature and pressure. So from this diagram, let us understand what is saturated, unsaturated, and what is supersaturated solution. So what happens here is, in unsaturated solution you are able to dissolve more amount of solute. Okay, so more amount of solute can be dissolved into the solvent. So this is nothing but an unsaturated solution. But in saturated solution you have already dissolved large amount of solute. So no more solute can be dissolved into the solvent. That is a saturated solution. So you can see, unsaturated solution, more amount of solute can be added, so concentration of the solution is less. In saturated solution, no more solute you are able to add into the solution, that is, it has very high concentration, and supersaturated solution becomes unstable because on heating they will form crystals. Okay, so here we need to just concentrate on saturated and unsaturated solution. Okay, so unsaturated solution has less concentration and saturated solution has more concentration. Supersaturated solution is when you have already added the solute, and when you are heating this solution, more amount of solute is able to get dissolved into the solution. Okay, so you have already added maximum amount of solute into it, and if the solute is not dissolving, you are heating the solution. Okay, once you are heating the solution, even more amount of solute you are able to dissolve, so it will have the maximum concentration, right? And once you cool it, the solution or the substance starts becoming unstable and they form crystals. So you can see with these three test tubes, concentration is increasing from unsaturated to supersaturated solution. Okay, so supersaturated solution is the highly concentrated solution where the solution is becomes stable. Okay, and when you are heating, it becomes unstable and crystals are being formed, and it contains maximum amount of solute. So now we need to understand what effect temperature and pressure has when solid is dissolved in liquid. So according to Le-Chatelier's principle, in a saturated solution, if dissolution process is endothermic means heat is absorbed during the reaction, that is delta solution, that is delta H or enthalpy is greater than 0. Okay, and the solubility will increase with increase in temperature. That is, in dissolution process, that is, which is an endothermic process, the solubility will increase with increase in temperature. But if there is a dissolution process taking place and it is exothermic, the solubility of the solution decreases. So according to Le-Chatelier's principle, when you are taking a saturated solution, the dissolution process, if the dissolution process is endothermic, अगर dissolution process endothermic है, the solubility will increase with increase in temperature. But if the dissolution process is exothermic means large amount of heat is released during the reaction, then solubility will decrease. Okay, this is the effect of temperature that it has when solid is dissolved in liquid. So this endothermic process is when large amount of heat is absorbed during the reaction. So here solubility will increase with increase in temperature. But when the process is exothermic, when large amount of heat is released during the reaction, solubility is decreasing. Okay, but let us look into what effect pressure has when a solid is dissolved in liquid. Pressure does not have crucial effect on solubility of solid in liquid because they remain unaffected to pressure due to high incompressibility of solids in liquids. We have already learned in our junior classes that solids cannot be compressed, right? So when you are applying pressure on solids does not have any effect on itself. That is, pressure remains unaffected because you cannot apply pressure on solids because solids are highly incompressible, right? Solids cannot be compressed. So because of the property of high incompressibility of solids, pressure does not play any important role or does not play any crucial role on solubility of solids and liquids because solids cannot be compressed. On applying pressure, solids do not get compressed. That is why there is no change, or the solubility of the solid in liquid does not increase with increase in pressure. Okay, when you are applying pressure, when you are increasing pressure, solid or solute does not get dissolved into the liquid because of the high incompressibility property of solids. Pressure remains, or the solution solid in the liquid remains unaffected even if you apply pressure in the solution because solids are highly incompressible. So we have finished with a small topic, how solubility of a solid in a liquid is affected by temperature and pressure according to Le-Chatelier's principle.